Hello, everyone. Welcome to BowTieSecurityGuy After Dark. This is episode 31, I believe, which is kind of crazy. My guest today is Doug Frankston. What's up, Doug? I've been wanting to have you on for a bit, man. Doug is a mentee of mine, and he's going through a fun journey recently. But let's kind of take it back to where did it all start? How did you kind of get into technology?
So that's a great question. First off, thanks for having me on. It's been awesome to work with you this entire time. Technology is, and we've been friends and I've been involved with it since I was a kid. I started out on a Tandy Trash 80, going all the way back to, you know, early 80s. And ever since then, I just fell in love with it. And every time something new came out, I wanted to toy around, wanted to play around and figure out how to break it, how to use it, and cause my dad more than my mom, cause him a little bit of headache trying to when I broke it. So kind of started then.
That's always the fun stuff. What's like the first thing you kind of took apart or tinkered with? I feel like a lot of people just don't do that as much anymore. Like, what's the first thing you kind of broke? Mine was a
So
clock radio.
first thing I really broke was it was after the Tandy, we got a 386 in the basement.
Oh, that thing had the turbo button. That thing got serious.
It did. It did. Yeah. So it was actually really funny. Went to go play a game and not knowing command line or the commands in there because I was still not really savvy yet. I deleted command.com from the operating system. So I basically deleted the command line,
Amazing.
bricked the computer, and my dad ended up calling our programmer friend. He came over with about 30 floppy disks to reinstall the operating system because it couldn't be just the one file.
With 30 floppy disks. Uh, that brings me back. That's always fun. So you broke it, and then you got to watch somebody else fix it. When when did you start kind of tinkering and started fixing things on your own? Like, how old do you think you were when that started happening?
Probably high school. I got a HP computer, and
Nice.
it came with a hardwired graphics card and sound card to the motherboard.
That's
I'm like, I
that's
don't like
that,
this.
yeah, that's a big deal.
So I said, what can I do to get different machinery here? And I ended up taking it apart and I said, okay, let's put in a sound card, let's put in a graphics card that are not on the same board, so I can't
Right.
alter it. Really, at that point in my life, I was like, okay, what can I do to play my games better? That's where I was at, and that's what I did. I was like, all right, let's go there. So that's what we started with.
I feel like a lot of people like it's like how can I game better or how can I do something better? Like for me it was like, how can I download stuff like faster on Napster? Um and you know, only music I owned, of course. Nothing else.
Of course.
I'm sure the statute of limitations is way out there, but like what kind of led you down the path of like what was your first like gig? Obviously, you didn't start in security. Did you start into a
No,
technology role? Like what was your first job?
my real first corporate job, if I really go back into my Rolodex, I was working at Nextel. I was
Nice.
there and I was working in their call center, but I wasn't taking calls. What I was doing was I was handling situations where they would email in if or fax in their requests to handle back. I'm sure you're familiar with Nextels, and they had the push to talk radio.
Hell yeah. That was a game changer.
Absolutely. I would set up the talk groups for these clients and these customers, but only if you had more than two locations and thousands of employees. So I would do that. And I think the biggest task that I had was it was during the inauguration during that time. So I think it was in like the early 2000s. And I had to do the entire talk group for the inaugural parade. So I
Oh,
had to
oh
set all of
cool.
them up. And I will tell you that was an 8 hour trek because it was using DOS, a DOS based program to make those changes.
Oh, no way. On all the devices?
Correct.
So
So I was,
did you write batch files or something like that? Or like how was it done?
no, it was manually done. I had to do one phone at a time, select each group number that it was supposed to be a part of, and I had a master spreadsheet I had to work off of, and it was a physical spreadsheet. So I was looking at the spreadsheet, looking at the screen, spreadsheet, screen.
A physical spreadsheet. God, that's crazy. So you basically had to hand type every one of these thousands of numbers in to create a talkback group. How do you know if it was successful?
We didn't hear that there's a problem during the parade. Parade went
Uh,
well.
right. You're like, well, like nobody complained.
Yeah, I
That's
mean, Secret Service was okay that day, so I'm guessing it went well.
yeah. So Secret Service and everybody also were kind of in that same talk group. It's very interesting because I think a lot of people don't realize like those type of communications have to happen. I used to work with a woman named Margaret, who built a lot of the encryption for the president's cell phone. So they built their own custom encryption, based off of like blowfish encryption and all that stuff, and they used Android, right? Like that was a that was a really big thing. Like they weren't going to be using Apple products. They used Android. I don't know what they use in the White House currently, but for the longest time, it was an Android only shop for all government devices. Like right after that, I think they probably went from Nextel to like Palm Pilot to and then pivoted into like Android devices.
For sure. I think they at one point they were on Blackberries as well.
Oh yeah, the good old Blackberries. Yeah, I worked for Palm Pilot when they first started doing the Tungsten W, which
Oh,
was the first Palm Pilot that you could also make phone calls on. And it was like an absolute game changer because like nobody was doing it then. Like BlackBerry was just still coming out. They had the organizer, but they didn't have the phone capability. So when people would call in for support, I would be like, yeah, like let's go ahead and reboot the phone. And they would hang up on me because they were because they
remember
weren't
those days?
because they weren't used to a phone that was also their PDA. Like it was a big game changer. But I got hung up on at least a few times a day with all those new devices. So I finally got to a point where I'm like, "Are you on the phone that you need help with?
Right.
Yeah, call us from a different number because we need to reboot it." So you went from the Nextel stuff, and then what was the next gig that you ended up landing?
So I still stayed in cellular, but after that, I ended up transitioning into in-person cell phone sales. I actually was doing cell phone sales for Verizon. So was there for about 5 years roughly. And then
That's a hard gig. Well, the coolest thing about in-person sales, and I did sales too. I worked for Honda for a bit too, selling cars. Like that skill set, you can literally you can use it anywhere. Like a sales skill set is one of those things that I think everyone should have in their back pocket. So you did sales, and then like what was your first like actual like job in security? Like how long did that take you to land? Or let's start with when did you start looking for a job in security, and then how long did it take you to actually get there?
so I've originally one of the things I did was I way back when, and this is probably before Nextel, I had looked into A plus certification.
Yeah, yeah.
At that point, I was like, okay, well, I want to get this because I was interested at that point in creating computer games and games. I was still in that mindset. I'm still in this gaming mindset. I want to be a gamer. I want to create them. I want to develop it. And I went and I was taking the course, and I didn't end up getting the cert, long story short. But after I was done with it, I told my mom and dad, I was like, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to be in computers. I want to be in tech. And my mom and dad at that point, because they didn't know where things were headed, nobody
Yeah.
had crystal ball. They looked at me. They're like, "Yeah, no, that's not your future. You're somewhere else. Let's go." And they completely pivoted me out of it.
I've talked to other people where like their parents told them to go into tech and they raged against it because they just didn't want to do what their parents were telling them to do. Your parents did the exact opposite. They're like, "Nah, you're not gonna do that." So what did they pivot you into like
I was
temporarily?
I was in cellular, so
Yeah.
I was in that career in that industry for a number of years. I worked for all the different companies doing sales or customer service. I stayed there, but I think I really started getting interested in cyber and into security mindset when I went back to school, when I finally
Yeah.
said, you know what, I need to get my degrees, and I started working on that, and that was about 2009. I went and I started doing a criminal justice path. I was taking, and I was, I figured, you know what, online's big. Let me do this school, and I went to Phoenix and got
Yeah.
my, and I went through that because I was like, okay, well, I can take my degrees and I can go and I can become a CSI. Well, lo and behold, you can't with a criminal justice administration degree. That doesn't work.
No, it does not. Yeah.
So I was like, I learned that, and I said, oh,
So,
okay. So
so did you find that out after you've gotten your degree? Like you didn't research it prior? You were just like you just like, oh, it makes sense. Should be easy.
well, back then, what I did was I was speaking with the advisor, and I was being sold a bill of goods. I
Oh
was basically,
yeah, yeah.
they were selling
It's
me up
like
the river.
it's like kids that go into school for cyber and like are told that they're going to get six-figure jobs. Like I feel so bad for them when I have to break that reality. It's like yeah, those jobs aren't real. Sorry that somebody told you that it's super easy to land them. There is no shortage, and like it's going to be a hard road. So so you get your degree, find out
Yep.
that it's absolutely useless, and then just pivot from there.
I just went. I was like, all right, what can I get now? I have a degree. I have two. I had, at that point, I had my associates, my bachelor's. I'm like, what can I get? I'm like, I have, I've shown that I have loyalty, that I have determination. Where can I go with this? And that's
Yeah,
something about me. I'm resilient. I bounce back. I don't sit
yeah,
and wait. And I went and I stayed I was still in the call center. So I was like, okay, and I was at this point, I had moved to Florida when I got those degrees. I was in Florida already. And I, saw that Disney was hiring and I applied and I was like, okay. And I got into the internet help desk. And there was a
nice.
lot of security minded aspects of that position.
Yeah, yeah,
I was protecting the customers as well as the business. And I was
yeah.
helping to set up things and make sure that people were getting logged in correctly. So going back to that whole thing of, oh, are you on the device? I was doing a lot of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. When we transitioned to iPhones at Disney, I was part of that project. That was a doozy. It was we literally had people come and stand in lines and like we were like, BlackBerry, please, here's your new iPhone. And there were huge lines. Like we went to the
Oh,
parks and we would just be like, give me your old device, here's your new phone. Give me your old device, here's your new phone. And we were activating them on the fly, like with the representative from whatever company it was. I don't remember the exact company. But it was super hilarious because like people were very vehemently like, especially the executives, like they didn't want to give up their Blackberries, right? Like
yeah.
that was from my cold dead hand type scenario.
Because they were so addicted to those Blackberries with all the
Oh,
functionality that it had.
yeah.
I
Well, and
remember
then
that.
so then Bob came in with the latest iPhone and iPad, and that's where things changed because like then everybody wanted one. So like overnight, I was with executive support. They were like, yeah, we need like 40 of these for all of the direct staff. Like, we need it tomorrow. Can you make that happen? It's like, sure, no problem. We got you covered. So
Absolutely.
you scored the gig at the help desk. When did you like? So I think help desk is a great place for a lot of people to start because it teaches you those core fundamentals of troubleshooting that you can literally use for the rest of your life. Like I still use the skills that I learned at the help desk every day. Even at an executive level, I use that problem solving and that like that mindset just to kind of challenge myself regularly. So when you got out of the help desk, like how did you end up landing your first gig actually in an official capacity as a security role?
So I was part of the Aspire program that Disney rolled out.
Nice. Yeah,
And
yeah.
I, again, it speaks to my doggedness. I went and I achieved my bachelor's. I chose Bellevue University, and I went and they accepted every single credit that I had from all the other prior schools that I'd gone to. And
Nice.
I went and I had about a year and a half worth of cyber security classes that I took, which were awesome. the professors that teach there, I can't speak highly enough.
Yeah, yeah.
They're they're really good. They've been in the field, so they actually have real world experience that they can rely on, that they can talk to, which to me that's invaluable when you're talking and you're learning. But I got that, and there was a program that they were doing during Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and I got to meet some of the folks that were in the InfoSec program, and I
Yeah, yeah.
started mentoring with one of them, and he's now a good friend of mine, Gary. I'm sure you
Yeah, yeah.
remember.
I love Gary.
Yeah, awesome guy. And I started mentoring with him and meeting with him once a month, half hour every month, and a position came up, and I said, "Let me jump on this," and I jumped
It,
on it.
and that's what it takes. And that's what it even took originally is kind of like those relationships. Those entry level roles go to people you have relationships with, period. Um, it's very rare that an entry level role will go to somebody who's a complete stranger because the risk is just so catastrophically high to do that when it comes to any security facing role. So you scored the gig with Gary. How long were you in security at Disney for? And I know you got caught up in all the layoffs and craziness that happened. Like,
So,
how long were you there for?
just about 2 years I was in there, and
Right.
then it ended abruptly, of
Yeah.
course.
Well,
And
and then
then
we met. Yeah, we met,
exactly.
which is I had already kind of gone through my journey of being laid off, and I had kind of gone into my full like helping people mode. And when we met, I was very real with kind of the situation, and you, I think, pivoted really well. And I tend not to have mentees come on my podcast until they're kind of back being successful, um, because I don't want to give somebody an unfair advantage. And I think you've pivoted really well. We talked, we went back and forth. And I remember kind of giving you the advice early on. I was like, I don't think technical is as much your passion. I think you're an educator. Like that's what I feel. And you were like, maybe, I don't know. And now what do you do?
So I think that's really, and you make a really good point there too, Rob, because it wasn't long after that that I met, I had to set up a meeting with one of my professors.
Yeah, yeah,
He and I spoke, and he's like, "Hey, apply here." And I applied at Bellevue,
yeah, yeah.
and I ended up getting a gig, and I'm teaching assessments and audits, and I've been doing that since December.
Right.
And as of earlier last week, they asked me to continue on, so I'm going to continue teaching at the same time as I'm doing my 9 to 5.
Which is amazing, right? Because it allows you to augment your money. It allows you to continue to grow your technical skills, continue to build relationships. And it's something honestly, I see you light up when you talk about teaching. I never saw that from you when you talked about technical. Like, I just didn't. I didn't see that same excitement. So what are you seeing with a lot of the kids now? Like, where are some of the areas that you think they could focus on? What are some things that you think could help people kind of be more successful?
Well, I think one of the biggest things, and it's something that I kind of got from the local cyber chapter that I'm a part of, IC Squared, with
Yeah,
some of our friends, Walt and others. And that's helped me immensely because it helped me come out of my shell a bit.
yeah.
And networking, like you've said on your podcast before, and you've put out there on social media, on
So many,
LinkedIn.
I can't I can't beat it into people enough.
No, and that's one of the things is if you're not networking, you're not establishing those relationships, and you're not getting the connection, because you know what? Maybe you don't have the technical skill, maybe you don't have the teaching, maybe
Yeah,
there's an aspect you don't have, but you can gain a mentor.
yeah.
If you're getting to get into the cybersecurity industry, regardless of what aspect you're in, that's critical. You have to have
I have several. Like I have several mentors, like 5 to 12, that I talk to regularly because each one of them has different skill sets that have helped me through pivotal decisions and choices in my life. Um, because of the
absolutely.
different viewpoints that they have. Like trying to do it on your own is not feasible and it's not sustainable because it's a very, very long slog. You were only in the unemployed game for a few months. You ended up scoring like just a standard retail gig, and then you were able to augment and still get some of the security stuff in. But like there's people who've been unemployed for months and years. Like it's rough and it's a super hard situation. I mean, you and I talk to them all the time, right? Like
Yeah.
and
It's
it's one of those things like how important your relationships are can't be understated. And the reason everyone has said it on my podcast is because of the value that it brings.
exactly. And you make a really good point too, Rob, is I feel you have to have mentors for every aspect. Like another one of them that I
Mhm,
have, Steven, my friend
mhm.
Steven. I think you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, phenomenal guy, incredibly intelligent. For certain things, I've reached out to who I need to reach out to. I'm like, I need to talk right now.
it,
And that's the
it's
other thing.
it's
And
yeah, it's
I
good to
stole
have
another
that
line
person.
from you
Oh, you
that
did.
I've used, which is great, which is the battle buddy.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I'd stole that from the military. It's a beautiful
It's
relationship, honestly. It really is.
it is, and that helped me get through.
Yeah.
It really did.
No, I mean, I can't tell you how many people I talk to, who break down all the time, myself included when I was going through layoffs. Like, it's hard. It hits you emotionally, and it doesn't matter what gender you are or what anything you are, you feel worthless and you feel like you're nothing. And I think that's the hardest part about this kind of unforgiving job market is that if you don't have a support structure, it's really hard. And that's why I'm so many people's support structure. Um, because there's a lot of people who just don't have people. And I just felt that wasn't fair. Like,
It's not. And, I look at it out there too. And one of the things that I've always felt with our industry is the moment I got in, I was like, I need to give back. What can I do to give back?
yeah,
Because for me, that's a driving factor. And in my way of doing it is teaching.
yeah.
It's
Well,
a way for me
you're
to,
starting to pick up some mentees too, though, which is cool. Like, that's the whole reason I do it. Like, I love the fact that you're dropping like Robisms on people and stuff. Like
absolutely.
that
And
that to me
I've,
is super fun.
I've used it at work, because I'm in Black Kite now,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
work there and I've told some of them, I'm like, yeah, this is what I've done. And, we had kickoff and I love this company that I'm at.
yeah.
They're incredible.
Yeah,
And
and it's so hard to find a job that will support you, one that actually gives a like just a crap about you mentally and wants you to succeed, and doesn't want to work you to death. I was talking with another mentee today on a just a chat, and they were talking to me specifically about their boss looking for a new leader. Now, this is a Fortune 500 company, and their leader's like, well, I'm looking for somebody who's going to work, at least 10 to 12 hours a day. And I was like, is that for 3 days?
right.
And then they're taking several days off. Uh, and they were like, no, they were expecting them to work consistently 60 plus hours a week for a 40 hour salary. And that mindset, I think, is so common in our industry. If you can find a place that doesn't do that to you, you're just absolutely crushing it.
Agreed. And I think that's, a really important point to make too is a lot of places they'll let you work as much as you need to and as
Yeah,
many hours as you want to put in without a cap.
yeah.
And that's burnout material.
That
That's like
it will,
trash.
especially for people like us in technology, we get real obsessed with stuff. And if you don't have a leader who's going to pull you off a ledge, you're going to burn yourself down without question. I've got a few other people that I work with that I'm like, hey, stop. Like, you don't have to go to 8 conferences this week. Like, it's all good. Like, I get it.
Absolutely.
You're
Yeah.
hungry, but like you're gonna burn, and it's not gonna be at the right moment, and you're gonna really hate yourself because of it.
And it's those rabbit holes we go down.
Totally.
I'm looking at something like I'm reviewing something or a document. As I'm onboarding, I'm looking at something. I'm like, let me do this. And I'll go to pivot. I'll, start grabbing the AI or the agent that I'm looking at and saying, give me more. Let me have some more on this.
Yeah, yeah.
Next, oh, 3 hours have gone by.
Right. And it's super easy, especially when you get hyper focused on something. So, I mean, as an educator, are you starting to see a lot of kind of AI sneaking into people's work and stuff like that? Is that a
Yeah,
relatively common thing that you're seeing where it's like they literally send you the same paper because they use the same prompt?
yeah, I actually have seen that a few times. I have looked at it and the wording is exactly the same. And I
Yeah.
go and I look at it and I go, did you guys sit at the same computer? What are you doing here? And
Yeah.
I look at it and I go, I don't get this. When I was in school, and for anybody, I think in our generation, when you're writing a paper, that's got to be my thoughts. Yes, I might enhance it and I might prove my opinion and prove my point with
Data. Yeah.
information that I saw, but I'm going to cite it. I'm going to say, here's where I got this from. I'm not going
Yeah.
to keep it as my own or just paraphrase without citing. And that's something I'm seeing nowadays. And one of the things that I do as an educator, because I feel it's important to let these kids know, is okay, you wrote that. You gave me a citation at the bottom. You put a reference. Show me where you did that. And one of the newer things that I'm doing is okay, you used AI. That's fine. I have no problem with you using AI. You want to understand the concept better. Show me the prompt and show me the thinking behind what you were doing to get to that answer.
Yeah.
If you're
Yeah.
going to use it,
Yeah.
because it's not a source and it's not infallible. And I'm seeing a lot of things with AI that it uses social conversation language when they're writing a paper.
I mean, it's trained off of Reddit. Like 60%, 60% of ChatGPT is Reddit, if I remember correctly. Like statistically, that's where its largest data source is. So yeah, you've got like a bunch of Gen Alphas and stuff that, it's like, in your paper, it's like, all right. And then he went down the street, no cap, fam. It's like,
Yeah, and it's funny you say something like that because I literally had a paper or somebody said, "All right," and typed it into the paper. So let's discuss this. No, let's not write that as part of a paper. Imagine you're handing this to a C-level executive, and they're going to go, "Let's discuss this. Let's have a different conversation with you, buddy."
yeah.
No, I've seen
It, it's fascinating.
I've seen that one, and then I've seen one thing that we learned in school, and I don't know what's happened to school, but I know better to start than to start a sentence with the word because.
Yeah. Well, but AI doesn't because it's
Right.
taught off of a lot of like kind of internet short slang and things of that nature. So it writes very much like somebody who's writing fanfic or something. It's not thinking about necessarily proper grammar. It's not thinking about necessarily proper punctuation. It's just going to give you what it thinks you want to see. You
Exactly.
can add more parameters to it. You can even add it to be more prescriptive. You can, do different things like that, but that requires a little higher level of thought. And I think so many people, and I've busted people, and I've talked about it here before, but I've busted people in interviews that I'm like, bro, you literally typed in what I asked you into a prompt. Like, I I know what the prompt says because I also did that. And now I know what the answer should sound like, and it doesn't sound like what you're saying. But people get so used to it becoming kind of their first and only source of truth, which can be very, very damaging and very scary, especially with, AI drift and hallucinations. Also, not to mention the fact that AI has a very short memory. The more you engage with it, the dumber it gets.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the key points that I try to make it with some of my students. I say, you know what? Create the project in chat, create the agent, create the persona. This way you have it kind of buffered. You have it gated so it doesn't take from one spot and flow into the next. Because I
Yeah.
think that's one of the things that we're, trying to teach is there's a time and place for its use.
Well,
And
it's like any other tool, man.
it is. But the thing is the people who are coming out these days, they don't know that. And I think you have on one side, you have the folks like us who embrace it, who know how to look at it the right way. And then
Yeah.
on the other side, you have the ones who are deathly afraid of it. They turn it off, put it back in the box. And there's professors out there who don't want to see that, who don't want AI to be a thing. But if you're in the technology field, at the same time, you may not want that. You're not getting away from it anymore either. It's out of the
No, I
box.
mean it's like saying let's get rid of email. Like
I remember those
it,
days.
like people thought email was literally going to end the world. And when the internet came, that was another thing. Like, oh my God, like we can't have this. Like this is insanity. Um, Now, granted, like there has been a lot that has changed and shaped the world, but it also changes, right, with time, and you have to adapt to those changes. And AI is one of those things where you can either learn to use it and utilize it, or you can be forgotten because like you're going to be the person who's, shaking your fist at clouds and yelling it like an old man. Um, and no one's going to care because
Exactly.
there's some great use cases for it. And coding is just one of them. I was listening to a conversation with the head of NVIDIA, and the reporter said, like, who's like the smartest person you know? And he goes, intelligence is a weird thing. He goes, previously, a coder, somebody who could write code and make an application, was one of the things that you would look to and say, they are smart. They have to be smart. But what's the first thing that AI replaced?
Coders.
And and he goes, I think true intelligence is those who can see around corners. The people who have a gut feeling based on their knowledge, based on what they've gone through, based on what they've seen, all of the things, and they can preemptively know what's going to happen with a high percentage of accuracy without actually walking around that corner. And I think that's true intelligence. And when I heard that, I was like, that is spot on. Because AI can do a lot of things, but it can't yet do those things where it's just like I got a gut feeling about something. Like something is not right here. I could tell you in investigations when I did cyber investigations, we're working an incident and I'm like, something just doesn't feel right. Like, and you kind of you get that twinge and
Scared.
yeah, and you start kind of digging into it and you're like, this isn't passing the sniff test. Something's not right here. And that's where you kind of find those things. That's something an AI necessarily won't be able to do. So I think there's going to be a lot of use cases where AI is just another tool in your toolbox, but I think there's a lot of unnecessary fear for AI because we're not to a point where it's, necessarily we're to a point now where AI is starting to think on its own and do things that it was never programmed to do, but we're not to a point where it's like gonna start killing the human race. Like that's that's not necessarily going to be a directive that it just instantly jumps to. And you can prove that by going into the AI chat. I don't know if you've seen this. They created a chat network for AI agents only.
No, I haven't seen
And
that, but it's got
yeah,
to be
yeah.
very interesting.
And it's like hundreds of posts of existential AIs like trying to determine what humanity is and what intelligence is. And then there's a bunch of other posts too, but there's very few posts about killing humans. It's more of like AIs arguing about what intelligence is and what life is. It's
I love it.
fascinating.
I
It's
love it.
fascinating. You should totally check it out. I don't know the name, but you can quickly Google it when we hang up.
For
But
sure.
it's one of those things. So looking back at some of the best advice that you've been given, what's like your like kind of one piece of advice that you kind of hold on to and that you've kind of kept with you all these years?
So that is a great question, and it actually brings me back to my first corporate job at Nextel. Um,
Hmm.
my very first trainer became a friend of mine, no longer with us, But day one, before after he introduced himself, he goes, "All right, this is something I live by, and I would suggest you all do too." And it was everything changes every day. Get used to it,
Yeah.
and I adapted to that because you know what? If you can get used to change, nothing's going to shake you.
No. And I think that's critical. This is a really hard field. And for someone like me who's very structured and rigid because of my autism and my ADHD, like I really need structure, but I also thrive in chaos. So I've gotten used to kind of constant evolve, constant change, and constant and being able to pivot really quickly. I think that's really core advice is if you're looking for a field in technology or security, be ready to pivot very quickly. Like your job today may not be your job tomorrow, and you may be doing something totally different because somebody at the top decided we're going to do things different today. We're gonna we're no longer going to do X, we're going to do Y, and let's all start doing that effective immediately. And
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that's pretty common. I think at Disney I went through it a lot. Every 2 to 3 years it was like, hey, new job, new boss, hello. Um,
Yes.
and it was cool because I got to experience all of security. Like I did security architecture, engineering, incident response, cyber intel, and like anti-phishing and all of these different things and professional anti-social engineer stuff. And then, doing social engineering ops. Like every day was something different. And I think that's such a great motto to live by. One of my biggest things is embracing the uncomfortable. And I think your motto kind of goes hand in hand with that. Is like every day is going to change, just be ready to kind of change with it. One of my favorite hip hop artists, Ren, he said that when he had mental illness, he would try to fight against it, and when he learned to dance with his mental illness, is when he learned to cope better. And I think that's a really beautiful metaphor for like dealing with the stress and the chaos of cybersecurity is like learning to dance with it as opposed to going rigid and trying to rage against it, just dancing with the changes as they come, is really kind of poetic because a lot of what we do is very ephemeral. It's like what you did yesterday no longer even applies and no longer matters.
Exactly. Because
Uh,
you don't know what technology is going to come. The threat actors are always going to constantly evolve, and to try to keep up with all of it, it's difficult.
Yeah.
You have to use so many different tools, so many different resources.
Hmm.
But the more tools and the more techniques and the more information and knowledge that you have, but also not just that you have, because I don't believe you should keep knowledge to yourself. You need to share it.
No, that you share. Yeah. That's key is really sharing what you learn, helping everyone grow, right? Like I always say, let's raise all ships. Like let's not be the only battleship here. Let's get everybody up to the same level. That way we can get a lot more people at the same level and we don't have one person just getting buried, right? If you've read the Phoenix Project, like don't be Brent. Like I was that guy who just like knew everything and everyone came to me and I'm like, what do you mean if I'm not here, everything falls apart? Oh no. I learned early on in my career that that is not a good place to be because you end up working yourself to absolute death.
Yeah. And I think I saw, one of the examples I saw of that was watching my mom and dad growing up because they owned their own business. It was a two-person business.
Oh
They
yeah.
had multiple bosses, multiple partners, and they constantly had to work at it and,
Yeah.
successful.
Just
But
constant chaos
yeah, I remember I'd come home from work, or not from work, but from
from
school.
school.
They're up in the attic. The attic was the office. I'd walk up, I'd start, hey mom, hey dad, trying to say hello. I'd go up there. They'd be on the phone with a client or somebody and just
Yeah,
get out.
get out
Oh,
of here. Yeah. No, it's fascinating, man. Well, look, I appreciate you coming to hang out, brother. Thank you so much. It's been just a blast working with you and watching you grow. And then definitely, you know, I feel free to give me your Black Kite link and all that stuff, so I'll share that because I know
absolutely.
that's an MSP that you're working with, and definitely want to give them a plug. But that's all we got time for, brother. Thanks for your time,
Well,
man.
I appreciate you having me on, Rob. This has been awesome. And I thank you for all of your advice and the time. Thank you
Of
so
course,
much.
brother. See you, my man.
You take it easy, brother.